Activist investing is not new, but with the growing support from institutional investors, the lives of directors are going to be changed forever. I'm Chris Clark with NACD, and I'm joined today by Steve Balet of FTI. Hey, Steve.
Hey, Chris.
We did a Blue Ribbon Commission report on this very subject, and what it really was is that directors, to be successful this year and next year, they really need to act and think like activist investors. But do you agree or disagree with that statement about their lives changing forever?
I think what we've seen in activist investing, and particularly the support for activists from institutional investors, is that it's changed over the past 10 years. When we look at the voting statistics from 2001 to 2014, overall, management wins about 56% of the time it goes to a vote, activists about 36%. The past 2 years, that's absolutely flipped. Activists are winning 56% of the time, and management only about 38% of the time.
That's like plus 20%.
Absolutely, complete reversal.
FTI just came out with a great survey on this very subject. Could you share with our audience maybe some of the counterintuitive points?
Sure. I think some of the things that came out in the study of institutional investors, everyone would kind of expect based on the voting change, that institutions support activism. It's really a question of at what companies, first of all. So we asked them about targets. Which companies do they feel activists would be targeting? And they said some of the things you would expect: poor stock performance, poor operations, ineffectual or inefficient use of capital, and bad corporate governance. What was kind of interesting to us is that 53% of the institutions that we surveyed stated that even companies that outperform the market, they could use a little activism, and they would support activism in those outperforming companies. The other thing that we noticed was that we tend to think that institutions support activism because they support what the activists are saying, that they want a sale or a buyback or a split or an increased dividend. When we surveyed institutions, they didn't say that. In fact, only 13% of the institutions we surveyed stated that an economic event was the reason why they supported activists. What they really wanted was change and alignment of management and the board with the thoughts and the practices of institutions.
It is an age-old debate that's come to the surface. There is a concern about short-term thinking or short-termism.
Absolutely, and I think that institutions get that, and they get that a little bit more than I think we give them credit for. When we did the survey and we asked them what are some of the negatives of activism, they said it promotes a short-term approach. It promotes a short-term gain at the risk of a long-term benefit. And I think what companies have to do is find a way of communicating their strategies to their investors and showing them what the long-term plan is and the benefits of that long-term plan. And by communicating that before an activist enters a stock, it's going to give them a much greater likelihood of success should an activist enter, and it may actually help prevent an activist from gaining interest in that stock.
I'm going to steal your conclusion. I think the messaging might be, show your work.
Absolutely. What boards and management have to do when they're communicating with their institutional shareholder base is lay it out for them as much as they possibly can, what their thought process is, what things they've considered. And by doing that, they effectively immunize their shareholder base from an activist approach. Activists like to go into a contest knowing that they have a chance at winning, and they speak to institutional investors, and obviously institutions have been very supportive of activists. But if you can communicate your story well to your institutional shareholder base, you're going to put yourself much less likely at risk of activism.
On behalf of FTI and NACD, thank you for viewing today. If you'd like more insights or information, please visit the FTI site or the NACD site.